In an article on detecting lies in children and adults by Robert Edelstein, lying is defined as a deliberate falsification in which the target has not been forewarned of the speaker's intention to lie. This is in contrast to other forms of deceptions, in which the target is notified either implicitly or explicitly that misinformation may be provided. Findings from the studies of lies detection indicates that on average, people's accuracy in detecting lies rarely exceeds that which would be the same expected by chance. Many people assume lying that comes from children is easily detected, more so than lying that comes from adults. Research shows a higher percentage in recognizing lies in children, more so than in older children. Most people will come to the conclusion that lying is derived from personal gain, and why people lie is to better themselves and their social status, socially, economically, financially, and the way that they may be looked or perceived. Many of these reasons are true and could potentially be why people lie to one another. The question that seems to create the grayest area is, how do people get good at lying, and what is the point at someone's conscience steps in? Is it subjective and solely depends on the person that is doing the lying and the conscience that they have? Can we all train our conscience to be silent? Can something as simple as lying become so habitual that it reaches the point of becoming automatic? Where does this deceit ultimately stem from? Research states that more often than not that people assume they are lying in their successful lying detection and assume people can read them better than they actually can. This meaning that the majority of the time people rely on their own skills and assume they can tell where they are being lied to more often than not. A person who is lying to you will avoid making eye contact, hands touching their face, throat, and mouth. There is also a wide range of emotional gestures, verbal contexts, interactions, and reactions. For example, it's stated that a person may get uncomfortable or defensive. The person may misplace things inconspicuously. These are all different signs of lying. The assumption that people are good at detecting lies turns out to be a self-confident assumption. Why? As I turned the corner of the hallway, I saw a man standing there, probably around 6 foot 4 inches tall. The man was gazing into the classroom as if he was actually watching school being taught in session. The only problem was that it was 10 o'clock at night, and the classroom was pitch black. The man is wearing a long, black trench coat and a charcoal gray beanie on his head. He seemed to be wearing denim jeans with black boots on as well. I said to the man, "Hey sir, I'm sorry, you're going to have to leave." The man quickly turns my way and starts walking towards me without saying anything. At this point in time, I'm starting to panic, but I quickly defuse the situation and say, "Sir, you're going to need to leave or I'm going to have to call the police. Unauthorized personnel is not allowed in the buildings after hours. Thank you." I start to turn around and walk back to the gymnasium, and the man says, "I'm looking for Susanna." I turn around and I quickly lie to him. "She's busy right now and she's leaving soon anyways. Have a good night, sir." We make eye contact and he stares at me for a minute or two and then proceeds to turn around and walk out of the building. Every Sunday night I play basketball with alumni at my high school, and one night a man entered the building. The ladies were discombobulated and nervous, and this is what I told them all happened as I went to deal with the situation. This entire description isn't factual in any way, shape, or form. I turned the corner, but I saw no man, and dealt with no situation. Prior to walking down the hall to check things out, I took into account the variables in the situation. I knew the ladies in the gym were scared and uneasy about the mystery man in the building. I also knew the one lady that spotted him said he was tall, and he asked for a lady who plays with us named Susanna. As I walked out of the gym, I saw the man exit the building, and totally could have turned around and walked back into the gym knowing the situation had been diffused on its own. Instead, I took my own opportunity to create this elaborate yet dramatic situation that everyone believed for the rest of the night. I knew the man was tall, so I began to craft an unknown and creepy man in my head from every storybook and movie that I recall, and that's how I created his attire. I knew that he had mentioned Susanna earlier to another lady, and this was crucial to add to the story to make it believable. I also knew, since the ladies were uneasy, creating a situation where a tall, scary man is walking towards me would touch on each one of those nervous emotions the ladies were experiencing. The trick to this collaboration is that it all happened in less than 30 seconds in my head and flowed perfectly without preparation or an elaborate drawn-out thought process. As I review this brief snippet in my life, I ask myself, why? Why recreate such a dramatic and false scene? In an article by Raymond Richard on the psychology of why people lie, he stated that it derives from one of two motives. The first motive is a desire to cover up a lack, that is, when others, especially your parents, consistently fail to teach you in a wise and compassionate way about how the world works. The second motive is a response to knowing that someone has failed you in some way or another. When I look back on my situation in the gymnasium, I would have to say my case in particular is different than any lying case that I've researched thus far. Where? The lie that I created in the gymnasium that night wasn't derived from my childhood or the upbringing of my parents. My father was a pastor and my mother is a teacher, and neither one of them have failed me in the past nor now in the present. The situations that I create tend to stem from a desire for an unbelievably, extremely exciting alternate reality that I subconsciously want to live in. I subconsciously want to live a life that's always dramatic and entertaining, that tends to match my personality. The stories that I make up come into my head as easily as they come out of my mouth. It's almost as if I'm watching a movie in my head. As I spill the stories out, the film is just streaming through my mind, and the stories continue to pick up detail and gets better and better as I am watching the movie. The more you add to the story and the way you deliver it adds just the frosting to the cake. At the same time, though, it's an art form in the way that one makes up a story and the details in the way they deliver the tale. Too much detail in the story is literally unbelievable and unrealistic. One would be discredited and no one would listen. On the other hand, if you don't jazz up the story at all, what's the point of making up an unexcited story and being deceitful in the first place? One must find a happy medium of unbelievability. That is the effect that draws people in. That's why people enjoy watching movies. That's why every girl loves to hear about the romantic sap and the greatest love story ever. That's why everyone likes to see the hero ultimately win in the end, because it's literally unbelievable. Scenarios like that can't happen and won't happen. Everyone longs for an extremely exciting alternate reality that is unattainable. The unattainable is attractive. People always long for what they can't have. This is the problem with our generation. It could potentially be the problem for the consistency and the upbringing of liars in our generation. We have all been fed for our entire lives that everything we could ever dream of is at our fingertips, and it only takes money, fame, fortune, stepping on people, lying and deceit to get there. Why wouldn't you lie to get everything you want? If lying and deceit is all it takes, it brings us back to the question in the first place, but in reverse order. Why not lie? Why not train yourselves to silence your own conscience if it brings so much gain and gratitude to one's life? Solution. There isn't an answer to solve all of the lying and deceit that goes on from each individual person. There's no way to tell or understand why people lie, where it stems from, depending on the single individual. It is factual, though, that everyone wants to live and lead an extremely exciting, yet unfulfilling life. Because no matter how many lies I tell, or how many dramatic stories I create, or how easy it is for me, in the end it's still a lie, and it still leaves all the people being lied to and myself unsatisfied. Because when the fluffy, fun story is over, it really is still unattainable. The life we are called to live is the here and now, not the alternate reality we think we want to exist in. So then again, in the end, there is no answer to why people lie or how to be good at it. The answer is not to lie.